'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the great house Mrs. Johnson grumbled and started to grouse. At first it was the cleaning and her annoying son Harry, but then it was because she saw something scary. Stay away from this place where things are not right, and don't go to the old house, especially at night. I warned you to please have some sense, but you came anyway. You're either crazy or dense. You visited for the holidays, but I thought you understood that even on Christmas there's terror at Collinwood. There's nowhere to run, there's no place to hide. This podcast is fun, but there are spoilers inside. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I am Danielle, aka Penny Dreadful, and I have a special episode for Christmas. I decided to interview my family about Dark Shadows, so you're going to be hearing from my family, and some of them you've heard mentioned on this podcast quite a few times, so you'll be hearing from them, and I hope that you enjoy it. Please just bear in mind my family are not active in fandoms and fan communities. They don't participate in online discussion about any of this stuff. They're just talking about their memories and their enthusiasm for Dark Shadows and other things as well, sharing memories about growing up in the 60s and all kinds of cool stuff. So I hope that you enjoy it. And this episode will be going up after it's over, but on December 18th, Catherine Lee Scott and David Selby will be performing in Gift of the Magi, which will be presented through Smartphone Theater online. And I will post a link to the archived show in the show notes, so you will definitely want to check that out. And without further ado, let's get to Terror at Collinwood, featuring special guests, my family. I am here with my aunt Agatha and my mom Zezinha. They are original Dark Shadows fans who watched the show in the 60s. Welcome to Terror at Collinwood, Mom and Titia.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
Hi.
Okay.
I am a Dark Shadows fan, and we started watching Dark Shadows since the beginning, and it was
Since
black and white
67.
still.
You came to America from the Azores. It was 1967.
1967.
Do you remember the month?
January 23rd.
January 23rd.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So did you start watching it right away? How did you find it?
It was actually maybe 2 or 3 months later that
Yeah.
we started watching it, and we used to get out of work and walk home fast so we could watch Dark Shadows. And we used to watch the last 15 minutes of it because it took us 15 minutes to get home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really was a big fan of it.
What time was it when you got?
It started at 3:30.
3:30.
Yeah, 3:30 to 4.
And then they moved it to 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they moved it, and then it was better for us because we used to watch the whole show.
So you walked or ran home from
We
work?
kind of fast walking to watch Dark Shadows.
So around the time that you started watching, was Barnabas probably was already on the show by then.
Yes.
Yeah.
I used to love those teeth of his. I used to dream about those teeth.
She used to have nightmares with these teeth.
Especially
So
my
did
mother.
I.
My mother would go berserk with that.
We were just talking about this is my grandmother, Vova Maria. What did she do when she would see Barnabas?
She was just like, I got it.
She loved the show, but she was scared.
She did love the show.
Yeah.
She used to watch it with me and Karen too, and Titi Valdemar.
Yeah. When we got home to watch, going, quick from work to watch, she was already sitting down watching it. Yeah,
And
she was
she's-
waiting for us.
You know what she used to say? Je kills de vampier.
So who was your favorite character from Dark Shadows?
I did like Barnes and Angelique and Quentin. I really did like to.
She's making sideburns with her fingers.
Quentin, yeah, he was a really good actor.
What about you, Madeleine?
Yeah, the same.
Yeah, the same. Yeah.
I don't even remember half of the names, though.
Yeah.
Do you both already speak English, or would you?
We did understand a few. Things, yeah.
We understand. I love you.
That's a good thing to understand.
We did understand quite a few things already. And then and your grandmother used to ask, what did they say? And we used to tell her. The little we knew that we used to tell her and translate a little bit.
Yeah. What about Vavu? There's my grandfather.
I don't think he really cared too much for Dark Shadows.
No, he didn't care much for that.
No. Yeah.
We were watching the show. He would pass by the parlor where we were watching TV, and he would nod his head like,
Yes.
they're watching it again.
we did watch it a lot.
Yes.
It was for years and years on Dark
Did you
Shadow.
watch all the way to the end?
Oh, yeah.
We did. Yeah, we did. I don't remember.
I don't remember the rest of it, but we did.
Watching it.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what happened in the end. But we probably did because we were just hooked on that show.
Yeah.
We like to watch it all the time.
What do you think of that? This is still has such a big following now, with people still being into it.
It's because I guess it was a really great show, and they don't make those anymore. So it was really nice.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the shows they're making now is not as not interested as that one.
Did you guys go see the movie in 1970 when that came out?
No, I don't think so. No.
You did.
You have that movie, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I
I think
have
they
to.
ended up watching it with us later.
Maybe, but I don't remember. I don't recall watching that movie.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get together one day and just watch the movie.
Yeah, because I remember my mother making a comment when David was throwing the ball right in that old pool.
Yeah.
Who leaves a little boy alone in that pool?
I didn't poke her like that.
No, but this one is even worse.
Like that.
Yeah.
If you told us, right?
But it's true. At that time, are you recording?
Yeah.
She said, yeah.
At that time, what?
No, at the time, you asked if we speak English at that time, and it's true. I said, we understood that word, I love you.
I don't remember too many I love yous in Dark Shadows.
No, if we understood English enough to understand the show, and I said, we understood I love you in English.
Yeah, we did understand a few things, yes. But it was like
Well, you were going to school.
3 hours. Yeah, we were in night school. So
Oh, you were in together then?
Yeah, we went to school.
You see,
night school,
honestly,
yeah.
Yes,
Look, her
and we were
arms.
there for a while. That's how we learned a few words in English.
What else were you doing during that time?
Who was working?
Dating.
Dating, helping your grandmother around the house, go shopping at Mars.
Mars, yeah, Mars Bargain.
You remember the Mars? We used to go there and shop. And at first, when we moved to Dean Street, we used to, every Friday, call a taxi. The whole family used to go buy groceries.
In the taxi?
Yeah,
Well,
everybody.
what my parents did, they went to do groceries at Mars Bargain Land, and on the way back home, they used to call a taxi to bring all their groceries home. And that was funny that day, $20 or $25.
$20 was like a huge
God.
thing full of groceries.
Nowadays,
And there was
$20,
meats and wines
To
and
everything. Milk, breads, everything.
Yeah.
$25 was like we used to get a huge cart full up the top with the
with the
groceries.
beer and wine, for the
Yeah.
whole week or the whole 2 weeks
Yeah.
or whatever.
Here's to you all, and it was very nice to talk about Dark Shadows. I am a big fan of it still now.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.
I am here with my Uncle Valdemar, Uncle Val for short, TT. He's my uncle. Introduced me to Dark Shadows when I was a kid, and he watched Dark Shadows when he was a kid, when he first came to America. He got into all the pop culture, all the cool stuff, Superman, Dark Shadows, Wild Wild West, all the good stuff. So welcome to the show, Uncle Val.
Thank you.
All right, TT. So let's talk about your childhood in the 60s. You first came to America in 1967.
Yes, it was 1967, and our first television set was a black and white Philco. I don't even know if they make those anymore. I don't know where I think they're from Dutchland. I'm not sure from different Dutchland. So my mom was watching with my sisters this weird show, and we started watching it. Then of course I liked it, got hooked on it because of Barnabas. Vampire, which I didn't even know was a vampire until we went further into the season. We found out what a vampire was. We didn't even know what that was, but it was the mystique behind it, the sense of suspense, the mystery, the breathtaking, at the end you hear the music go on, and you're waiting for the next scene, what he's going to do, all that suspense type. So that caught all of our attention, so we couldn't wait for the next day to see what's going to happen. So we used to run from school, it used to be at 3:30 in the afternoon, and my school ended around 3 o'clock, so I had to walk to school, and my school was almost a mile and a half away. So I had to run home just to get, from the following day, what's going to happen the next day. But then after a while, it became so popular that they changed it to 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
So the kids could get home.
So the kids got home. And I heard Johnny Depp was one of those kids that he ran home to watch it. But he didn't do justice to the movie, let me tell you. He blew that one out. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah. So we got hooked on it, so we started watching him. I got into the character. I even got myself fake fangs, which I used to wear. I got a cane that I bought on a fair one time, but it was made out of bamboo. It wasn't even a real cane, so I got that. And the character just grew and grew until it just wore out. I think it was 1960 or 1970. I think it wore out. But the cool thing about it, we moved to another house and we got a color television set. So we started watching it in color, which was even better. Now we could actually see. So it was really cool to watch that. And at the time, there was bubble gums. You could buy bubble gum cards, and they had Dark Shadows. In those days, there were mom and pop stores. Today, they probably know what that is. That moms and pop stores. You could get so many different things. They used to have bubble gum cards of Tarzan, Time Tunnel, the Green Hornet, Batman, Superman, Dark Shadows, all of that stuff. It was just a different era. Lost in Space. Voyage at the Bottom of the Sea.
Monkeys. You gave me a bunch of.
Yeah, I gave you a bunch of monkeys. And Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
Don't even tell me what your mother did with those. Because I don't want to know. But anyway, so yeah, it was fun. It was fun growing up watching. I think the best television shows, I'm not being partial, I think I'm being honest, were in the 60s.
I agree.
68, 67, 68, 69 were the best TV shows. I would just sit and glued in front of the television, just watching all of that stuff. I remember watching La Fin. People don't know probably what that is.
Oh yeah, people know what that is.
La Fin, Voyage at the Bottom of the Sea, the FBI, the Green Hornet, Batman, Wild Wild West was one of my favorites of all. It still is one of my favorites of all time. There were so many. Star Trek, the Monkeys, of course. F Troop. There was so many, just awesome era for television. A kid would get lost just watching those shows.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Mr. Collins. Yeah, he did an impression on.
I remember you used to do a good Barnabas, well, sometimes you still
with the lip going up.
Yeah. Yes.
Willie, you betrayed me, Willie.
Yes. Yeah. You had the fangs. I remember going after Vavo with the fangs, and your mother, my grandmother. Sometimes you'd scare her with.
I scared her behind her. She said, "Don't come near me with those things. I hate those."
She used to, yeah. Even when we watched the show, she didn't want to look at the screen. And Barnabas showed his teeth.
She would close her eyes.
Yeah.
And put her fingers in front of her eyes.
Yeah. There's a picture of you're doing as a kid. You're doing that expression.
Yes.
The bangs.
Yeah.
Little bangs in the.
Oh, you remember that?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have that picture still somewhere.
Yeah.
See, that was the height of Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
That was how I became so. I just blew up when Barnabas came. It wasn't. I didn't see it before that. But I heard it wasn't doing that great in ratings. And I watched a biography, documentary, whatever you want to call it, with Dan Curtis. And he said that the ratings were dropping. So he went home and asked, and says, "Daddy, why don't you put a vampire on it?" And that's what he wanted. That's how he got the idea. And that's how the whole thing, just the ratings started going out the roof. Yeah. Especially when Quentin came back.
Quentin, sure, yeah.
That blew up the ratings as well.
Yeah.
And especially when they went back in time.
Yeah.
That even got further up. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And no soap opera in the history ever done that. that before.
Yeah.
That was the first Gothic soap opera, right?
Yeah.
In U.S. history, and no one has ever repeated that success.
Yeah, I didn't even really know it was a soap opera when you were showing it to me. You just told me it was a cool show.
I had no idea it was so. I didn't know it was soap opera until years later.
So different from anything else like that, you know?
Well, at the time it was General Hospital, Days of Our Lives,
Yeah.
As the World Turns. I remember some of those names. There was another one. Somerset was.
Somerset, yes.
All of those soap operas. I didn't watch them. I mean, I just knew the titles.
Yeah.
I didn't watch them. I just remember the names.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember the beginning of them coming on.
During that time, too, you were going to Capitol Theater and watching, like, Hammer horror movies and stuff, right?
There was 3 movies for 50 cents.
Universal and Hammer films
Yeah,
and
it was,
stuff.
Dark Shadows was there.
Yeah, House of Dark Shadows.
Yeah, it was playing there. And it was like Westerns. Hells Angels was a big thing. And as a kid, I wanted to get into the Hells Angels thing with the motorcycle.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I even had one of those jackets you wore for the winter. And then I cut off the sleeve so that I could have one of those.
Was that before? I remember you got really into
That was around the same time. No, that was the same time as Dark Shadows.
Oh, okay.
And so I used to wear a little bike, and I cut off the sleeves of that jacket.
Yeah.
It was like a sport jacket, and I believe I had one of those Hells Angels things.
That's great.
Yeah, it was. Then I watched Planet of the Apes there too. The original
Capitol
Planet
Theater,
with
yeah.
Charlton Heston. Yeah.
Yeah. What channel was Dark Shadows on in New Bedford?
Channel 6. It was ABC was carrying that, right?
ABC, yeah. And then Dark Shadows disappeared for a while. It went away for a while, but then you started.
Well, this was 1975, 74, and it used to be broadcast from 56 in Boston.
Oh, right, yes.
And I watched a little bit. I could watch a little bit of it, but not much because the reception wasn't that great.
Yeah.
But I watched it from 56. Then they had another show. I'm going back to 1968 again. The show was so successful in '68, Dark Shadows was, that I think it was ABC was another broadcasting company that produced a show called Strange Paradise.
Strange Paradise, yeah.
And it was close to the same script as Dark Shadows, you know, the mystery type gothic, but it never really took off. And Martha's Vineyard had it broadcasting over the air from Martha's Vineyard, but I only caught very little of it, but I saw little bits of it, pieces of it.
Yeah, and that was the same channel, 58, right? That was doing.
That was 58 for Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, 58 started showing Dark Shadows. You were getting the tapes.
No, 58 was Strange Paradise.
And Dark Shadows.
56 was in Boston. Dark Shadows was in 56.
70s, though, but in the 80s.
It was Martha's Vineyard, 58.
Yeah, and then you were getting tapes from Mark, and then we started watching it.
It was bad quality. It wasn't that great quality.
Bad quality, yeah, multi-generation tapes. But
Yeah.
then you got an antenna to get the broadcasts of it from UHF. It was 58. It was showing it out of Vineyard Haven through the 80s, and we would record it. I remember I would come home and go to Vavoda's house upstairs and record it.
Yeah.
We would get home from work and we would watch it. You know, you mentioned Barnabas and Quentin. Are there any other characters that you were a fan of?
Well, the one I really wanted to, emulate was Barnabas Collins,
Yeah.
the main character. Willie was, to me, always a punk. He was like a white, just a punk, you know what I mean? But I guess Barnabas humbled him a little bit, if you know what I mean? Because he was not the same person after. And I remember another thing from the show. I don't know what year that song that I relate watching it, because I think that song came out in 66 or 65. But my sisters used to play that song. It was a song called Help Me Rhonda by the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
So every time I hear that song, because they used to play that song while sometimes we were watching the Dark Shadows. So every time I heard that song, it reminded me of...
Oh, if they were in the other room playing it?
Yeah, especially Maggie Evans.
Yeah,
She would be the first one to my mind, because I remember her and Barnabas on a scene going up the stairs as Josette.
Yeah.
And that song was playing right at that same time.
Oh, wow.
So every time I see that scene with Josette and I hear the song, that's when even today when I hear that song, it reminds me of Maggie Evans.
Yeah, wow, that's cool.
It does.
Yeah.
Help Me Rhonda. Every time I hear that song, it reminds me of Dark Shadows. I remember too when they finished the show for the day, and sometimes they would go back the next day and start filming again. They will forget how the show ended the previous day, and they will go out to the people in the street and ask, how did this? What did we do yesterday? How did it end? Oh, it was this and that. You know?
Yeah, the writers. Yeah, they would ask the fans. Why do you think that Dark Shadows continues to be a popular show?
Because there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's one of a kind. Johnny Depp made a mess out of it. He didn't honor it.
Did you like the one with Ben Cross in '91?
No.
No.
I'm partial. Well, I like the original.
Yeah.
The original is probably the best. They'll never make anything like that again.
Do you think they should try?
They can try, but I don't think it'll ever be close to the original. I think you have to get the old way of doing things, because that technology at the time of doing things, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, people understand me, the way it was filmed, the way, the angles, the music, the way the camera aimed at the faces and all that, they have to do that to catch that spirit of mystique and mystery and suspense. They have to do that.
Yeah.
And they have to be good actors portraying that part. And I think all those people that did those Dark Shadows in '68, they were all great actors. All of them. They all did a great role in that.
Yeah.
All of them did. The one you and I always make fun of is Roger Collins.
Oh, that we imitate?
Yeah, we imitate.
With the brandy?
Yeah. But anyway,
We loved him, though. He was so much fun to watch him.
They would, if they did it over again, they would, instead of going in there and just a shot in the dark, they would have to do this really careful, so they won't spend too much money. They have to they have to get into it, not just, we're gonna do another one of those vampire movies. No, you have to get into it to get that spirit. I mean, whatever you call that.
Yeah.
Of the show.
The gothic.
The atmosphere, because that's what lost in so many remakes.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very rarely do you see a sequel that's better than the original. Very rarely, but you do see it. You do see it. The Godfather 2 was better than The Godfather 1. And there's other ones too, but that is hard to duplicate.
It's hard when they try to redo those shows from that time. And they were successful when they did the Star Trek The Next Generation, because it was like a sequel to it. So maybe they're trying to get a sequel show off the ground.
For the Dark Channels?
Yeah. Like it takes place now, but it's a sequel to the original one. So that might be interesting. But they have to recast Barnabas, because you got to have Barnabas in there, and that's tough because Jonathan Frid was so iconic.
Well, he was a Shakespearean actor as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So you have to get that sort of person in there to do that.
Yeah.
With that kind of background. I mean, really get into the role.
Yeah.
I mean, and portray it like it's real.
Yeah.
Live and breathe that role. Like I want to say about the guy who did the Joker and Batman. Was it Heath Ledger?
Yeah.
He died because the role, I heard, was so, he got into the role so much that it just ruined him. It just ruined his mind. But the next person who ever does it has to get more into the role. Ben Cross, I don't think it was that great of Barnabas Collins. I don't think anybody who else did I see?
It was him and Johnny Depp.
Oh, forget it.
And then there was the 2004 one that never aired.
Forget it. Not even close.
Yeah.
See, Jonathan Frid had just this thing about him. He did it so naturally. I think he just betrayed himself, who he was, honestly. I really do. A part of that was just his own personality.
Yeah, he was very good at playing those gray areas. Like, he could be really dark and scary, but he could also be very dignified.
Well, he was dark and scary, but he got scared of his own character, wasn't he?
Tormented.
Didn't he got scared of his own character that he portrayed? Because I heard he wanted to do another The House of Dark Shadows Part 2, and he refused to do it.
He didn't want to do it.
Exactly.
He didn't want to do it.
Because he said he was too violent in the first one.
Right? He didn't like House of Dark Shadows because it was very violent.
Yeah, right. And he says, so he didn't like, I'll give you an example.
He was a classy guy.
He didn't want to do that anymore because he got intimidated by his own role or character, because he really was evil in that one. Jack Palance, when he did Dracula, he said he was very afraid to do that role ever again, to get into that costume, because evilness is, because you're portraying a dark spirit. And those things really exist. People don't believe they exist, but they really exist, those dark spirits, and they get into people when they do these sort of things. Christopher Lee is another one. He says, get away from the occult. It'll drive you crazy, or it'll drive you to hell. One of those. And he did. I saw the interview myself.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And at that period of time when I was a young kid, that's another one of my favorite guys that did Dracula was Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
He did a beautiful. I mean, he was scary. Christopher Lee was really scary. I mean, he really took that role.
Yeah.
And he did a really great job as that, and it scared me myself.
Yeah.
It scared me.
I remember
watching that.
Watch Dracula, Prince of Darkness and stuff.
It was, and I saw those at the arcade theater, which is there no more.
The arcade, yeah.
And he was really good at what he does, but what he said too is don't get into the occult. It'll drive, because he experienced it. Because I think he was delving into the occult, and he got scared of it, and he backed off of it. He said he was going nuts. But it's it's entertaining, it's good entertainment, but I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, so you don't watch scary movies anymore?
No, I don't watch
even like classic ones.
No.
Like Vincent Price and Universal.
No, I haven't watched like anything really for the longest time.
If there was a new Dark Shadows that came out, would you watch it? You did watch the Depp one.
I did not. Yeah, that was a mistake watching that one. That was a total disappointment watching that sucker. All the money they put into that movie, they could have made a really good one.
Yeah.
A really one.
Yeah.
This was a comedy.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to your question was, if I ever see if it comes out, when it gets there, I'll decide. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
But so I haven't seen any horror movies at all. No, the Friday the 13th or slasher movies is disgusting. To me, it's the same thing. The guy never dies. He always comes back to life. Halloween's the same thing. But like you said, the classic horror movies back in the day.
The Wolfman.
Those by Universal.
Dracula, yeah.
Those were classics. I mean, you have to
remember watching all those with you too.
And Bela Lugosi was the first one to portray that role. And for that time, I guess it was pretty good for the 1931, wasn't it?
Do you like Lugosi more or Lee?
Lugosi did a very good job for 1931.
Yeah.
There was nobody else who did it like him.
Yeah.
If Boris Karloff came in and did that, he would never do it. Mm-hmm. And it's like Bela Lugosi came in and do Frankenstein, it would never be as good as Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So put that in that perspective.
You used to do a good Boris Karloff impression too.
Yes, I did. But those guys started out. I think those were the golden age of horror movies, was Universal. They tried to bring that back with the last movie with
Tom Cruise.
No, with Werewolf, with that guy.
Oh, the Wolfman.
The Wolfman.
Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, but they're trying to bring him back with that one. That was that actually reminded me of more Hammer movies.
Hammer. I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of, Hammer movies.
Yep.
More than
style.
Yeah, it was that sort of style, and they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, they did a good job. The scenery, the background, the acting, the camera angles. You know what I mean? It was good. It was really good. I was really shocked.
I like that they used makeup like a Wolfman instead of CGI, or it wasn't really CGI. Rick Baker did the makeup for it, so it looked good. You said you saw House of Dark Shadows at the Capitol or the arcade?
I saw it. Oh, actually, I saw it at the arcade.
The arcade. Did you go see Night of Dark Shadows too?
I did. I believe I did, but we didn't get into it. It was me and a bunch of guys that went to. Mm-hmm. A friend of ours, we sang around with all these guys. And we didn't get into it. It wasn't. I heard they edited so much on the editing floor that. Well, Mark told me last time I spoke to him. He said they got all the parts back together. It's just a matter of releasing it. But I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know.
It is true. Yeah, I talked to the guy who's found all the footage. There was some audio missing, so they got the actors back to re-record the missing audio. Last I heard, it's done. It's just they're waiting. Warner Brothers has to release it, and Warner Brothers doesn't have any interest in releasing it. It's done. Like, they could release the full version of the film. It probably would be a much better, make more. I like Night of Dark Shadows, not as much as House of Dark Shadows, but it would make a lot more sense if you could see the full version of it.
Yes, it would be. Because I heard it make. I don't remember it that well, actually, watching it. Because
Quentin and Angelique.
It didn't make any sense, I guess, because they took a chunk out of it.
Yeah.
So the movie didn't make any sense to me. Actually, it was boring.
Yeah.
It was the other one, the first one, that really brought all the audience to the. I remember that place being kind of packed up watching that. It was like watching some movie too. Like I told you, Planet of the Apes, that was packed up too in the movie theaters. Mm-hmm. Hell's Angels was always packed up because the kids always wanted to get into the motorcycles. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Be one of the gang. But anyway, going back to the '60s, it was a fun era. It was just awesome era. It was a great era. It was just being that spirit of freedom. It was just a great time. It was just an awesome time. Everything was, inflation was down. Was not. Of course, I was a kid. My parents paid for everything. But I wasn't working. I was like 10 years old. But it was just fun being a kid. Nobody bothered you. I went to school by myself. Nobody bothered me. Nobody says, "Hey, kid, you want to ride?" Nobody said that. There was nothing of that.
Yeah.
Like in today's world. Today is unbelievable what's going on in today's world.
Yeah.
And nothing ever happened to me. I by myself, 10 years old, walking in the avenue, 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And back then, the avenue looks now, it looks like it's a ghost town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Back then, it was live.
Yeah.
It was with so many businesses all over the place. It was just a different era. Different era. I cannot even explain it. It was just different. The TV shows were different. Everything was different. It was so wholesome. It was just a beautiful time. which would not. That was the age of the Woodstock too, back in 1969.
Woodstock, yeah.
I had no idea Woodstock was going on at the time. I remember we had those banana seat bicycles,
Oh, yeah.
and we had the handlebars up here like this, the ape hangers that they call them.
Yeah.
But we used to have those
I
bikes.
remember those bikes, yeah.
It was so cool. It was just, I used to say to my friend, hey, can I borrow the bike to go for a ride,
Yeah.
It was just fun. Kids just having fun, man.
Yeah.
Just a different time. 50 cents for 3 movies.
Yeah.
$50.
Wow.
$50 for a movie, man. For 3 movies.
Wow.
And plus shorts. We used to have Tom and Jerry. We used to have Bugs Bunny. So all that fun stuff was there. All of it.
Yeah.
And with that, we went to watch Frankenstein, and I think this was 1968. There was a Frankenstein movie, and I think it was Boris Karloff, because sometimes we just go nuts. We don't even pay attention with the movie, but at the intermission, they had guys dressed in Frankenstein and werewolf and come on stage.
Yeah.
It was just fun.
Yeah, I met one of those guys who used to do that.
Yeah?
Yes, yeah. He passed away, but he was a tenant in one of my dad's apartments, and he used to work at the Capitol Theater.
And he's the one who wore that suit?
Yeah. He used to walk around the theater dressed as Frankenstein.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah. Do you have any, closing thoughts?
Any crushes on any of the girls in Dark Shadows?
Okay, are there any crushes?
Yeah, there was. There was Maggie Evans was the one. Even as a young kid, 10-year-old, she was a very attractive girl. So, of course, that's when you're growing up. You started admiring these girls.
Was that your first TV crush?
I would say, yeah, that was.
Maggie Evans?
Yeah, it was her. Then I used to like that girl in Lost in Space. The one I really had a crush on was that girl from After Troop, the blonde girl, Wrangler. That's the one. But Maggie Evans was up there because every time I hear that song, it's Maggie Evans.
Maggie Evans, yeah.
Call me Rhonda. Every time I think about her and Barnabas, going up that scene, going up the stairs, and he's taking her. Remember, she's in the spell.
She's in the trance.
And she's in the trance. And that song was playing at the same time that scene was going on.
That's funny.
So every time I hear Help Me Rhonda, it reminds me of that scene. They're going up the stairs.
Was that your favorite storyline in Dark Shadows? The original introduction of Barnabas story?
What was the original?
Yeah.
That was the original.
That introduction of Barnabas story.
Willie is the heartbeat.
Yeah.
While he's looking at the portrait.
Because then they had the origin 1795, and you find out Angelique puts the curse on.
Well, I do like that era too. Yeah. Everybody was hooked on that too.
Yeah, and then Quentin comes.
It was great, but then all these characters started coming in. Count Patolfi came in.
Count Patolfi. Oh, I remember. We used to imitate him too.
And wasn't that guy that played Trask?
Trask.
Yes. That Barnabas buried him behind the wall in cement.
Yeah, I remember you hated Trask.
I never liked him. Yeah. And he wanted to marry Elizabeth, didn't he?
That was Jason McGuire.
No, Trask wanted to.
Yeah, Judith. When in the past, yes.
Yes.
When he was his Gregory Trask, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, and then there was Jason McGuire too. He used to imitate him.
Yeah, I used to like him. It was funny though. I liked Jason McGuire. And Victoria Winters tells him one time, "You're talking from under your hat." It says, "My darling, one thing I don't do is talk from under my hat." I remember the scene after the show ends.
But Julia, you like Julia?
Yeah. The credits come up.
Yeah.
You see Barnabas walk out with his clothes.
Oh yeah.
In his arm.
That was great. Yeah.
That was a really live feat too.
Yeah, that was great. All right, Titi. Well, any closing thoughts you want to share? Like at that time you dressed up as a vampire and tried to scare me when I was a kid. My uncle introduced me to all of this stuff, but he also was trying to scare the heck out of me back then. He was like the master of fear, because I remember you dressed up as a vampire one time and showed up.
And it was the same fangs I used back in '68.
Yes.
So, but this was 1972, right?
It was the early 70s. Well, maybe mid 70.
73. No, it wasn't.
76.
No, it wasn't.
You showed up at my parents' house, and the sun was going down, and outside all I could hear is over and over again, and then it gets dark, and then there's a knock on the door, and my mom went to answer. I was like, no, I was terrified. And then you went to the other door and knocked on that door, and then my dad opened it, and there, standing there, is full-on something that came out of a grave. It was a full vampire. He had a cape.
My hair was slicked back.
Your hair was
I put baby powder on my face.
Yeah, dark eyebrows.
I was young at the time, so it was dark already back then.
Yeah.
So, that, then I had a black cape. I don't know where I got that cape from.
Yeah.
Then when I had my stupid yellow shirt underneath the cape. As soon as I opened up the cape, it says, "Oh man, why did I leave this shirt on?"
Yeah, you opened the cape and I saw the yellow shirt, and that gave it away. But then you like accidentally scared somebody on the street.
Yes, it was a lady.
This wasn't Halloween. This was just like a random day.
It was a lady who was across the street. I came out of the house, and this lady was walking up. She stopped dead on her tracks, and she looked at me like, "What the heck is this?" And I went back up the driveway.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Titi, for taking the time to talk with me.
No problem.
I am here making my way through the family get-together here, and I'm sitting down with my cousin, Karen Lima, who watched Dark Shadows with me when we were kids. Karen was a bit younger than me, about 8 years younger, so I would take great delight in watching Dark Shadows with Karen. So Karen, thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me.
So Karen, tell me about your memories. What jumps out to you about watching Dark Shadows? This was in the 80s, probably I guess in the mid to late 80s. We were watching Dark Shadows on Channel 58.
Definitely, mid to late 80s. The thing that jumps out the most at me is everybody's used to binge watching now with Netflix and all that, but we were binge watching before it was cool, right?
Yes.
We were just watching VHS tapes or watching it on reruns on the gold shaggy rug, and just spending hours and hours and hours watching this. And of course, I was quite young at the time, and I was so into it.
Yeah, this was at our grandma's house, at our Vavo's house.
Yes.
Upstairs. We were in
Yes.
Vavo's house. We would go upstairs.
Yes, we had the parlor all to ourselves because it was the non-usable room.
Yes.
We would get to use it.
Yes.
And we would just watch, and yeah.
Uncle Val had the tapes that he was getting, those bootleg tapes.
Ah, that's what it was.
Like 6-hour tapes full of Dark Shadows.
That's what I said. The binge watch before the Netflix.
We would just watch it all day.
Yes.
Till late at night.
Yes.
You were pretty little at that time, as
Yep.
I recall. Were you
Probably.
scared?
Yeah, there were plenty of times that I ran and would go hide under the dining room table.
Not as scared as Vavo was, though.
No, she was terrified. What was the phrase she would say? She would say, "Yeah, kurish vampir, os dentes todos negros de sangue. His teeth are stained with blood."
Yes.
Little did she realize he was an actor, and no, his teeth were not stained with
She
blood.
couldn't even look at the screen.
No, she could not look at the screen.
And Angelique, too.
Angelique, she did not. Kurishka Brusha. That damn witch.
She's no good, that witch. Now, Uncle Val had the tapes, and then it would show on Channel 58.
Yes.
And I would walk down to Vavo's house,
Yes.
and we would go upstairs and watch Dark Shadows. So what are some things that jump out at you that you remember from the show that stuck with you?
What stuck with me the most, I think, was the time travel. The parallel time, wasn't it?
Time, yeah.
Yes, that's one thing I really liked, and I was a big fan of Quentin. I
remember that.
Yes, very big crush on him.
It was like a combination. You were like scared, but you also had a crush at the same
Yes.
time. Because I remember the music playing, the gramophone.
Yes, that was terrifying to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, because he was haunting the house, and you were
Yes, but I don't know what it was. I didn't want to look at one of those gramophones for a long, long time because of that. We would binge watch, and what would happen is there would always be nights where you would sleep over. So we were at it until late at night, watching this, and most kids would lose their patience with something after a few hours, but not us. We would just sit there and binge and binge and binge and binge and.
It's true.
It is. Hours and hours of watching Dark Shadows. And then I remember going to school and being like, "Oh, I watched Dark Shadows all weekend." And kids were like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, you're not cool."
They didn't
You don't know.
understand.
You don't know.
They didn't understand.
They just didn't understand.
Yeah, we would take breaks to eat.
We'd take breaks to eat, and we'd take potty breaks.
We take potty breaks, and then
Go right back at it. And then the night would come, and then we would get to bed. And then the morning would start with more. More Dark Shadows. Breakfast and Dark Shadows.
And then Steve Valdemar, Uncle Val would get home from work, and we would watch some with him.
Yes.
So what are some of your favorite characters from, besides Quentin? Who else?
I did like Angelique.
She was great.
She was great. And
What about Barnabas?
Well, Barnabas is the main character. You can't. Everybody loves Barnabas, but I don't know. I found the House of Dark Shadows, the movie, so different,
Yeah.
and I think I used to really enjoy watching that too.
It was scarier. It was more violent.
I think it was more violent.
more
The
blood,
beating of
definitely.
Willie with a cane was terrifying to me.
Yeah.
Willie was one of my favorite characters too. I really liked how stupid he was.
So yeah, we had a lot of good times watching that. Now, have you revisited Dark Shadows
I
as
have.
an adult?
I have.
I have a hard time thinking of you as an adult, but
I have a hard time thinking of me as an adult too, until the wrinkles look back at me in the mirror. What I used to do with Elijah is when he was homesick from school, we would take a Dark Shadows sick day when he was real little and used to watch with me. And he liked the movie much more than he liked the actual episodes. But yeah, he was big into Quentin too. It was something about that time traveling and parallel time, and that it was just a good time. I don't know, great childhood memories.
that's a great mom to have a Dark Shadows sick day. I think that's a
Yeah, the kid's not feeling good. Sure, we'll stay home and watch Dark Shadows.
I love it. That's great. Do you have any hopes for future Dark Shadows stuff? Like I hear they're going to be doing a new series. I know you watched the dreaded Tim Burton.
I've been through the new series. What was that in the 90s
The
where they
90s.
tried to revive
Ben Frost,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, no.
You didn't like it?
No.
No?
They just no. It can never be redone, I don't think.
Okay.
It can never be redone. And Johnny Depp really upset me with that movie. And I just tell you, I thought he was a big fan, and judging by the pictures that were coming out before the movie, I was like, this is going to be great. And then the commercial comes, and I see the trailer, and it's an Austin Powers movie, is what I kept thinking. And I was like, oh no, disappointed.
You're not alone with that. So, Cousin Karen, thank you for taking the time to join me and sit down. Have a Merry Christmas. We're recording this on Thanksgiving, but this is going to go up for Christmas. All right, I am here with my cousin Elijah. Hey Elijah, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. Hey Elijah, how old are you?
I'm 11.
11. And you are a third generation Dark Shadows fan, I hear.
Yeah. I'm confused.
Elijah is going to talk to us a little bit about his thoughts on Dark Shadows. So what's you don't remember a whole lot. You watched Dark Shadows when you were really little with your mom, right?
About my sister's age. Right now, she's 1.
You were a little older, I think, when you were watching. What's your memory of watching Dark Shadows?
I don't know, people getting bitten on the neck by a vampire, the vampire ringing a doorbell, and my mom going like, that makes no sense. Vampires wouldn't know what a doorbell is, especially Barnabas, since he's probably from the 15th century, and they probably didn't have doorbells.
I never thought of that. Maybe Willie told him about the doorbell.
They had to go.
On the TV show, he knocked, but in the movie, he did ring the doorbell, yeah.
No.
So, when you watched Dark Shadows when you were really young, were you scared when you were watching these vampires biting people on the neck? You remember Barnabas, right?
Yeah, he's a vampire.
Did you keep watching it, or did you only watch a few of them?
I can't remember.
You can't remember?
My memory's pretty good. I just can't remember things that happened when I was like 10. But somehow I have the memory of a time where I was outside just watching my parents make that garbage thing we have. And then it got a wound from a hammer, I think, but they scraped my knee. It's like, you just explained to me in a very young way how wounds heal. That's all I remember.
That's what you, okay. Okay, so my last question is, what is your favorite scary movie?
Probably it.
It? Okay. Do you think an evil clown would work in Dark Shadows?
No, it's too. It doesn't make sense enough. Dracula is also one of my favorites. That would definitely work.
Dracula would
Obviously.
work. So like a crossover with Barnabas and Dracula?
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. I would watch that.
I mean, it's my mom's favorite movie.
Yeah? What, Dracula? Oh, the Gary Oldman one from
Yeah.
the 90s? Yeah?
Dracula.
But I always thought clowns were our friends. Like, they're fun. They make us laugh. So what?
Yeah.
I'm not really afraid of clowns. Yeah.
My mom just over-exaggerates. I mean, she's afraid of spiders. What do you think? I would kill a spider if I saw one in my house. But if it was a venomous one, yeah, definitely.
Definitely, yes. Well, Elijah, thank you very much for talking with me. Are you going to go back to watching Dark Shadows at some point?
No.
No. All right, I'm here with my dad, Tony Oliveira. Hey, Dad, do you remember when Dark Shadows was on?
Yes, I do.
Did you watch it?
Nope.
Thank you.
Is this therapy?
I'm here with my sister, Amy Oliveira. And while she never watched Dark Shadows due to her deep-seated fear of the supernatural, she did go on to watch Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Wars. Are you more of like a sci-fi kid?
I very much appreciate the supernatural. I think I was just introduced to it in a way that made me scared of it on purpose by a certain older sibling who wanted me to be scared because it was helping her develop her theatrical career.
Don't talk that way about Maggie.
Excuse me?
So you never watched Dark Shadows, but you were aware of it, right?
Yes, I very much remember a very large collection of VHSs in your room. The whole series, right? It was
Yeah.
You have the whole series on VHS.
Yes.
Back when that was a thing. And I remember you watching it, and I remember the theme song being on as I was falling asleep sometimes.
What a great way to fall asleep.
Yeah.
It's very soothing.
It probably wasn't meant to be, but for me, I have that association. So when I hear the theme song from Dark Shadows, I get a little sleepy.
Oh, there we go. There we go. So see, that's good. I helped you in that way. I'm happy to hear that.
Yes, I treasure that.
Other than traumatizing you with scary stuff.
Yeah.
But now you watch a lot of you're not like a big horror fan, but you watch some of that stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't like things that are gory and gross, but I like things that are mysterious and spooky and occult very much.
Yeah, I like that stuff too. I'm not big into the gore stuff either. Well, thank you very much. Do you have any closing thoughts for this holiday season?
Stay safe, avoid vampires unless you want to become one or become a meal. And if you need to buy a house in Massachusetts or Rhode Island, I'm a licensed realtor. Or if you need to adopt a cat or a dog, I volunteer at an animal shelter called Lighthouse Animal Shelter in New Bedford. So come on down. I got you covered.
If you want to buy Collinwood, which was recently for sale, talk to Amy because she's licensed in Rhode Island.
Yeah, that is a sale I would be happy to help you with.
I am here with my sister, Maggie, and Maggie didn't really watch Dark Shadows, but she watched the effect of Dark Shadows on everyone around her. So Maggie, welcome to Terror at Collinwood.
Thank you.
So tell me about your memories. I guess I don't think you really watched much Dark Shadows, maybe a little bit here and there, right?
I watched a little here and there. I remember lots of conversations about Dark Shadows. I remember the coffin in your bedroom that I think was partially influenced by Dark
The
Shadows.
full-size coffin.
Full-size coffin in the
I didn't sleep in it.
that's what you say, but
It was a decoration.
it was upright, so that might be kind of tricky to sleep in it. I just do remember a lot of obsession in the family about not only Dark Shadows, but kind of like vampires and spooky things in general. So even ghosts, spirits. So even though I wasn't a huge Dark Shadows fan, I think of it as living in the shadows of Dark Shadows because it was always there ever since I can remember.
What is it about Dark Shadows that our family seems to gravitate to? Why does it seem like a thing?
I think it's a cultural thing that the family is very, Catholic, traditional, and Dark Shadows is that evil kind of taboo, spooky thing that you're not supposed to like, but somehow it was okay because it was a soap opera on, and it was on during the day. So it was like an okay way to have the occult. It was an acceptable way to incorporate the occult into the very traditional Catholic household.
That's an interesting observation because I had a guest on my podcast and his whole family is from Costa Rica and they would pray the rosary before they watched Dark Shadows. He said they wouldn't miss it, but they would always pray the
rosary before they watched it.
Yeah, because I think a lot of cultures, especially ones that are very religious, there's a certain taboo about watching horror and, about anything spooky or creepy or haunted, but at the same time, they're kind of obsessed with it. But I think Dark Shadows was the, it was the safe way to incorporate it into their lives.
She'd never missed it. She would watch it.
She would watch it, yeah.
Did you get frustrated with my obsession with Dark Shadows when we were kids?
No, I was never frustrated by it. I think I was influenced in a way where it's like, oh, vampires, they're scary and spooky, but they're also kind of hot. So like you don't want to be attacked by a vampire, or do you? And what's that creepy thing in the shadows? Is it a vampire? Or oh yes, it is a vampire. I don't know. Which one is it? So it's kind of this like love-hate relationship with vampires and ghosts and haunted things I think that it's just like part of our family dynamic.
It's interesting. And you watch True Blood now. The creator of that show was a big fan of Dark Shadows too, and I'm pretty sure Bill Compton was at least partly inspired by Barnabas with the whole brooding kind of tormented aspect to the character.
It's very serious.
Yeah. So why do you like True Blood?
It's very entertaining. And again, it's this thing somewhere deep in my psyche that vampires are hot and sexy. And
you like Eric, not Bill, right?
It's not that I don't like Bill, but I definitely prefer Eric. But I think that it's something where it's like secretly, you're scared of them, but secretly you do want to be bitten and attacked by a vampire.
Jeez, man, I'm not going to let Mom hear that part.
Well, Mom was obsessed with Dark Shadows as a teenager for years with all those raging hormones. You don't think she secretly was waiting to get bitten by a vampire? I don't know. Just saying.
Sorry, Mom. It's Maggie said it, not me.
Somewhere along the lines, all of our family.
Not Dad. Dad was never into. Although he never got into. Although he secretly watched True Blood.
Yeah, I had no idea that Dad watched True Blood. That
did.
Shocked me. That made no sense.
He did. Yeah.
But no, it's very entertaining. I do like horror. I'm not into gory stuff, but obviously there's lots of blood whenever there's vampires. But it's very entertaining,
Except every morning when you hear the Dark Shadows theme playing from my apartment.
Well, you watched the entire series from beginning to end again, so that wasn't very surprising, but it was pretty funny. What was that, last summer, or was it the summer before?
I can't remember.
I don't know, but it was like every morning when I was getting ready to go walk bougie, and I could hear the Dark Shadows music in the hallway. Like, oh, Danny's starting her day with some Dark Shadows and a cup of coffee. What else is new?
This interview, Maggie, was I had to go through your agent and definitely had to pull some strings to make this happen.
I'm really hard to book, but I hope that I got into the, as a clinician, got into the psyche behind the family obsession with the Dark Shadows. And that was kind of my approach.
Yeah, that's a great perspective to bring to it. I didn't think of it that way, but that's definitely very interesting because it is kind of a strange thing that all the Uncle Val and Mom and Agatha, Karen, well, not Dad, Amy didn't really watch Dark Shadows too, but she was scared.
Just always kind of around, so Amy was kind of scared, but I kind of, and I know it still influences me to this day, even though, yes, I'm watching True Blood, but I did Google recently, are vampires real? So I know that it's... And I know that Google isn't going to confirm it, but I don't know.
Yeah, you might want to, anything you find on the internet.
It's got to be true.
There are documented cases of look up Highgate vampire.
It did say there are a few thousand like legitimate vampires, but we don't know. How do we know? Are they real vampires? I mean, how many centuries have they been around?
I knew a few horror hosts who are vampires.
See? So it has influenced me to this day.
All right, Maggie, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much for sitting down with me and my family to talk about Dark Shadows. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. I hope you have a great one or had a great one and have a festive holiday season. the storm clouds are gathering. This Yuletide celebration will soon be coming to an end, and we will return to more terror at Collinwood. But for now, go easy on the eggnog, have some fun, hope you get some good presents, and have a Merry Christmas. And for as long as they lived, the dark shadows never truly vanished, for there will always be terror at Collinwood. Terror at Collinwood is a Penny Dreadful production.
All right, now, the most dangerous interview I've ever conducted with my sister Maggie Oliveira. How do you feel about being named after the character Maggie Evans from Dark Shadows? Hey, Mom, did you name Maggie after Maggie Evans in Dark Shadows?
No, not really. I just didn't like that name, so.
Where did you hear that name?
I don't. I think it was.
What, Dad?
Dark Shadows.
It was a baby book with the baby names that I had, and I picked that name.
Oh,
for her.
okay.